anak to, pero magaling din. None other than someone who is very close here because he's from Houston. And he started as an optometrist that has to do with eyes looking, but now he's looking into economics, business analyst, and we're going to learn a lot about cottage kitchen industries or the Texas law, which can be applied to the way Filipinos are doing now online, their business. And without any more talk from me, I would like to very proudly welcome a friend one of the first friends I met and I've admired and respect and love here in Houston, none other than Mr. Bobby V. Reyes. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you, Nancy. Like I always tell people, you're my self-proclaimed cousin, even though we're not really related. We're both Reyes. We're saying we're self-proclaimed
Yeah,
because when you're overseas, you tend to develop your own family, so to speak. Because
that's true.
if we're far away from our actual families, we develop new families wherever we are, and
That's true.
so yep. So I'm very happy to be here with you today and talk about, what little knowledge I can share
Well,
with who are watching.
yeah, your lead on, or you already said that family here in Houston. So before you got to Houston, where was Bobby Reyes and what was he doing, schooling and all that? Tell us your story first.
Sure, sure. I'm gonna try not to take up your entire hour, and Nancy, but
It's okay, we can extend.
okay. So, again, my name is Bobby Reyes, but legally it's Roberto. So it's Roberto Reyes. I was born in Manila to Dr. Roman D. Reyes and Dr. Feliciana A. Reyes, who are both from Nueva Ecija. But all six of us siblings were born in Manila. But my parents always made sure that we remember what province we came from. And so we're very proud of the fact that we are from Nueva Ecija, which has been, and I believe it still is, the rice granary of the
Yeah.
Philippines.
So, but
So,
did your parents stay there in Nueva Ecija while you were
no,
all in Manila?
we were all in Manila because I, okay, I'm trying to remember this. When your parents tell you stories when you're little kids, you don't really pay much attention, but you do remember some of the detail. But
Mm-hmm.
they went to Manila to go to high school.
Okay.
And they actually met when they were high school students at Centro Escolar University.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story is, my mom said back then the men and the women were in separate classes, but
Mm-hmm.
they had a common teacher. And my dad apparently looked, teachers used to write the grades in those little notebooks. And so
Yeah.
my dad apparently saw the grades and he looked for the highest grading with my mom. And
Oh.
he told his teacher, who incidentally later became my godmother for baptism, I believe. Who is this lady with the high grades? And she said, "Oh, that's Feliciana." And so apparently, what he did was, today we would call it stalking, but he would stay outside the gates of CEU and wait for my mom.
Anong tawag nga doon? Ligaw tingin.
Legal
Ligaw
thing,
tingin.
yes, yes, but they met, but they actually did meet. And so they met in high school and all, and I believe even through college. My dad went to optometry school, but my mom stayed at CEU and got her bachelor's degree in education. And she went to Bryn Mawr in Pennsylvania to get her master's degree in English.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what she told me. She said my dad waited for her. I believe it was a 3-year course. My dad waited for her, sent her letters. The letters are still at our house in Manila.
Wow.
And as they say, when my mom came back to the Philippines, 1 year later, they got married in 1955.
Mm-hmm.
And so my parents always made sure we remembered we come from a poor family, which we did. And everything that we were given from my parents were born out of hard work. And they were hard workers.
If you don't mind, when you say poor, I mean, it's so relative.
Mhm.
Um, Somebody told me they were so poor that when they couldn't have lunch, they would just look for apple trees and eat apples.
Well, the
Well,
way when they would joke with each other, my mom would say that her family was less poor than my dad because my dad's baon was one centavo and my mom was 5 centavos. But
okay.
I know that my mom's family owned or they were farmers,
Mm-hmm.
and I think my father was too. But they came from different areas of Nueva Ecija. My dad was from Cabiao, and my mom was from Talavera, and so
Uh-huh.
they had, but they had a common food that we all enjoyed, burro. I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of
Wow,
burro.
yeah,
We,
yeah.
we not everybody likes burro, but we were raised on it.
Uh-huh.
So
What kind of burro? What kind of burro?
it's the one with fish, the hito, catfish.
Ito. Yes, yeah.
Yes, and it's to this day when I go to the Philippines, I always say, okay, I need to get some burro, and we go to Nueva Ecija and buy some. But
Okay.
like I said, my mom and dad always made sure that we remembered our humble roots, and we all six of us siblings, finished college. Four of us are optometrists. The oldest is a medical doctor, and the youngest son is a dentist. But in a long roundabout way, in the where I said I have an optometry degree from Centro Escolar University, I'm not working as an optometrist anymore because when I got to the United States, there were some licensure issues, and so they were not ready. At least the state of Texas was not ready to give me essentially a way to be licensed to practice optometry here. But
Mm-hmm.
it so worked out that I applied at the University of Houston and got accepted to the Bachelor of Science program, majoring in economics.
Okay, that's your second degree.
That's my second degree, and right after that, no wait, let me backtrack. So that was my second degree, and the reason I went to BS economics was I said if I wanted to become a successful optometrist in the Philippines, I wanted to have an idea about the economy, about business, about how things run, and so right before no, right after I graduated with my bachelor's at the University of Houston, um, people power revolution had just occurred in the Philippines, and my dad said, "You might as well stay there for a while until things settle down." And so
Mhm.
I signed up to get my master's in business administration at the University of Houston.
Third degree.
Number three. Um, I know I started to think I was becoming a professional student, but the way I look at it, Nancy, it's a way to improve yourself anyway. It's not like you're wasting your time. You're going to school,
Yes.
and at the time, I was able to get a job working after graduation from my bachelor's. I already was working,
Mm-hmm.
so it's common here in the United States that even if you're holding a full-time job, you're also going to school at night to get your
Yeah.
graduate degree or whatever. And so I already had a 40-hour week job, but I was going to school at night to get my MBA. And so by the time I graduated with my MBA, I was able to get a job and get my permanent residency, and that's why I'm here.
Bob, how old were you then when you got your MBA?
You're showing the age,
No,
Nancy.
you
Uh,
know why? Because I see some young ones, they're 30s or right after
yes.
college.
Well,
They're now, parang it's a trend now to get MBA.
it was a trend. Well, okay, back then when I signed up for the MBA course, the MBA program at the University of Houston, it was not as widespread, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak. There were still very few people who had MBAs,
Yeah.
and I said that's why I signed up for it. I said, hey, it's. I looked at the this course descriptions, and I said it's something I want to learn. It's a more in depth look at how to run businesses and look at corporations and all of this. And so I went ahead and finished it. But a few years after I graduated, so think about it. You have a full time job, 8 hours a day, but then you have to run, drive, whatever, to school at night that usually starts at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock that lasts until 9 or 10 o'clock. So I may be biased because I had this, what I call hardship, going from work to school. But then when online classes happen, where you can get an online MBA, to me and to my other classmates who actually went to the school, we thought it was an easier way to get the MBA. And if you notice, then more people got MBA. And to show you how it changed the way companies look at the degree. Um, before, um, I'm trying to think if I can say my employer. Um, I work for a large hospital in the Texas Medical Center.
Oh,
Um, Before, for a business manager, the only requirement was a college degree. But
yes.
because most of the applicants had MBAs,
Uh-huh.
they ended up preferring a candidate with an MBA because the MBA graduate had a more robust set of skills.
Okay. When you say robust, you mean
It's more in depth than just a bachelor's degree because when you get your master's in business administration, it's a little bit more. The courses are a little bit more in depth. For example, accounting.
yeah.
When I was in undergrad, accounting was just the basic accounting. This one is a lot more involved accounting. It had cost accounting, you had fund based accounting. It was a little bit more detailed. And then we also talked about, I would say, almost like what lawyers go through because we had a law course that
Mm-hmm.
taught us about corporate law,
Okay.
which you don't learn in an undergrad. So
Yeah.
that's just a couple of examples that shows you how more detailed it is when
Yeah.
you go to grad school.
Yeah, it's funny that I was once listening to a radio show and it said high school is the new college because there's so much being taught in high school that's already college level. So let me ask you,
Mhm.
are you advising new graduates of college to take MBA, whether they're in the Philippines or not, in order because of competition? Do you
Mhm.
advise that?
It really depends on what your educational background is. If your background is in business, why not an MBA? But at this hospital that I work in, it's not. Of course, there are MBAs. I'm one of them. But if you're aiming to become a hospital administrator, there's a degree called an MHA, a Master's in Healthcare Administration.
Uh huh.
So it's more geared towards being an administrator in a clinical medical setting.
Yeah, but I'm saying getting a master's degree in the course that you finished is is the trend now because we're talking of new normals
Mhm, mhm.
and would you say that you achieved better because you went face to face in your MBA classes rather than I don't know I might get into trouble but rather than online
Well,
master's degree.
I think we're just we are both um, we both have our own opinions about things. We're not by all means the experts in any of these fields that we're talking about. So the best we can do is talk about our personal experiences, which I believe is what drives us anyway.
Okay.
So if you were to ask me, I think anybody with a master's degree would have a little bit more a, more of an advantage
Mm-hmm.
because I've actually done it before where I would interview for jobs. What I would look well. Okay, when you interview, you actually look at what the job requires. What is the minimum requirement for the job? And so you look for candidates that have those minimum requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say they all have undergraduate degrees, then fine. You just stay with that pool of candidates. But what if you have a candidate that has a master's degree and has a lot more experience, but is willing to take that job? I'm not. I'm overly simplifying it because sometimes they just want to get their foot in the door, and then once they
Yeah.
get the foot in the door, then they leave. But all things being considered, if I were the hiring manager, I would look at the qualifications first and see what am I really looking for. So to answer your question, it's not really a black and white answer that yeah, having a master's degree would be in your best interest because you also have to take into account when you take a master's degree, that's more tuition and fees that you have to pay. Some
Well,
people may have,
we're talking of new normal now. So,
yeah.
'di ba? I'm seeing really more master's degree holders now
Mhm.
and
Yep.
younger than when probably you were taking it.
Yeah,
But
so you were asking. So when I moved to the United States in
yeah.
1984, I was 22 years old. I was
Mhm.
a recent college graduate,
Wow.
and that was 1984. I graduated with my master's degree in 1991. That would be nine. Wait, am I doing the math right? That would be 7 years. So I was 29 when I
Uh-huh.
got my master's degree. So you're
Okay.
right. We tend to skew younger.
Uh-huh.
But again, University of Houston traditionally has had older students compared to
Okay.
other colleges and universities. So my classmates then were older than me.
Uh-huh. And
And
Ace, you were an ACE student, ACE student, di ba?
well, yeah,
Sabi mo,
Ace, but
ano ka, top of the class ka noon, di ba?
in Manila I was, but then in here this was a lot more competitive. No, because in Manila they grade you by, I forgot now. I remember the highest grade was a 1. So it's more of a linear grading system. I can't I
Uh-huh.
can't remember what it's called. But
Yeah.
here it's graded on the curve. So an A maybe, because curve like this. And so if
Oh.
everybody's in the middle of the curve, that's a C, because that's passing.
Ah.
And if that were 70, and I'm oversimplifying it, it it dictates what your grade is going to be. If you're on the upper part of the curve, then your grade is higher.
Mhm.
So it really depends on how well your class is. Fortunately for me, in the undergrad, I was always on the top of the curve. But
Okay.
in grad school, where most of my classmates were experienced business people,
Yeah.
the curve skewed toward the top. And so I would end up behind them. So my grades were a little lower in grad school because it was a lot more competitive.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
different. The grading system here is different from what I experienced in Manila. And
Okay.
so, but anyway, just to finish the story. So after graduation from MBA, I got a job at this major hospital. I guess I can say it's the MD Anderson Cancer Center here in
Yeah.
Houston, Texas, the largest comprehensive cancer center in the world, I believe. And it's been
Yeah.
number one for the last, I believe, 10 to 20 years.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
so I've been working there for 28 years, Nancy, and I've been
Wow.
enjoying it ever since.
Uh-huh. Until
And
now, you're still
until
there.
now, now my job is the official title is a manager of information services, and I work in IT operations. And my responsibility is to manage the team that supports the main hospital and clinics.
All right.
And so it's a big job. Before that, I was only managing the division of internal medicine. It was a large group. It was about 800 employees, but now I'm handling the IT support for the hospital and clinics. I would say that's at least 15,000 people.
Okay, from hospital, that's a far cry from what you really do because you're a foodie and you're also a baker and you cook well. So
But
let's go into that other side of Bobby
yeah,
Ray.
but Nancy, don't forget, I have an optometry background, which is medical. So it actually helped that even though I'm on a technical side, which is in IT support, I'm
Yeah.
able to explain to the doctors, the nurses, and all the mid-level providers in non-technical language what
Okay.
they need to know.
Yeah. Galing, galing.
So
Okay. So, other than that, so where does the business part of it come in now? Because I know that you have a Facebook page like Filipino small businesses, restaurants, and groceries, and
mhm,
it's like you put up a support group online for businesses like that, and you promote them or you help them,
mhm,
and this
mhm.
is what I'd like duplicated back in the Philippines.
Okay. Well, in order for me to explain that, I have to give you another background of myself that I've done. So, I'm part. I'm a member of the board, and I'm one of the founders of Filipino-American Chamber of Commerce, Texas, which is
Mm-hmm.
a statewide chamber of commerce based
Okay.
here in the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, there was a PACC Houston, Filipino-American Chamber of Commerce Houston.
Uh-huh.
And again, in Dallas, there was a separate one, PACC Dallas. We knew each other, but we were not together. We were doing the same things. We were we were promoting Philippine businesses. We were promoting business ties between here in Texas and in the Philippines. So we were
Uh-huh.
essentially creating business partnerships. So back in 2007, PACC Dallas decided to put together a trade mission to the Philippines, to the Calabarzon region. And so
Mm-hmm.
they approached us and they said, "Would you like to join us?" And we said, "Okay, sure, we'll join you." And then we were together for about a week. We were meeting with the governors of the Calabarzon regions, the five provinces,
Mm-hmm.
and learned about, if I remember correctly, all the small businesses that they were promoting in each province. And so
Okay.
towards the end of this meeting, the groups in Dallas and Houston, we said, why don't we just create a better synergy by creating a statewide chamber, which would be, brings economies of scale, we brings more efficiencies, and we can be of more benefit to a larger group of people. So that's how PACC
Okay.
Texas was born.
Okay.
So like I said, I was a founder. I'm one of the founders of PACC Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm one of four in Houston. Tito Flor Ginhawa and Tito Refi and Grace Rodriguez.
Okay.
Um, what happened was we have been active in the greater Houston region of PACC.
Uh-huh.
And we were already successful in our programs because a chamber of commerce survives by networking, by bringing businesses and people together, and that's what we were doing. We had a monthly speaker series, we had
Yeah.
monthly membership mixers. Whether or not you're a member, join us in our mixers. You get to talk to other business owners, and
You have
we
live stream also. Your
no,
show.
well, that's a more recent addition. And then we had, for a while before the Philippine consulate in Houston opened, we were sponsoring the consular outreach programs here in Houston and Dallas, where we would bring the consular staff from LA, which was responsible for our region back then. We would bring them here for a weekend, and so Filipinos here in Texas wouldn't have to fly to LA to get
Yeah.
passports renewed and all of that. So that's how we've been busy. And
Okay.
so one of our proudest moments was when the Philippine consulate in Houston was finally reopened after 25 years of being closed.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
was, I believe, that was 4 years ago. So now we have a Philippine consulate here. So now back to PACC. So we were having all these successful programs. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, as we all know, the pandemic happened. COVID
Yeah.
19 entered our lives.
Okay.
And so it was a worldwide pandemic. It affected everybody.
Yep.
And depending on where you are, there were lockdowns, there were restrictions. You couldn't get out of your house. And so in Houston, and I can only speak for Houston, um, when the city of Houston and Harris County decided to put a lockdown on us, if you were already here, Nancy,
Yes, I was.
uh, we said, what are we going to do now? We thrived on the face to face. And so what we did, we reached out to our members. And as you said in our name, Filipino small businesses, restaurants, and groceries, we reached out to the brick and mortar businesses.
You have to explain what brick and mortar is to the
Brick and
people.
mortar business is, as opposed to an online business, brick and mortar means you actually have a space.
A building.
You're renting an actual storefront. You're renting a building. You're renting an office. You're renting a restaurant. So brick and mortar means it just what it is. It's a physical location of your business.
Uh-huh.
And think about it. Because of the lockdown, people couldn't leave their houses. Not only that, businesses were not allowed to open. So how do these restaurants survive? And
Mm-hmm.
so what they did was they developed curbside service, they developed home deliveries. They
Yeah.
had to change the way they did business. And so we in the chamber said, well, let's help them. And I'm not going to say we thought of this idea. There was another group in California that started something similar. They created a Facebook group that does
Mm-hmm.
something very similar, which is bring all of these brick and mortar businesses into a common area where they can advertise what they're doing, because obviously people are not able to get out of the house. A lot of them, spend time online because that's all we can do at the time.
Yeah.
And so we said, let's provide a platform, and Facebook was the perfect platform for it.
Yeah.
um, we do have two pages, and again, to differentiate between a Facebook page and a Facebook group.
Okay.
So our PACC Texas has a Facebook page
But
where,
not everybody is a member of PACC.
no, but anybody can look at the Facebook page.
Okay.
A Facebook group is a little bit more different. We decided to open the group and allow anyone to post in it, but we still need to moderate the posts,
And
because
post what? What can they
so
post?
post their
About
business,
their business?
about their business. For example, I'm just going to name names because there are members anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Philippine Besta Filipiniana. Of course, they couldn't open their doors, but they had to survive. So they
Mhm.
started providing curbside service and delivery and pickup.
Okay.
So if Filipiniana were to post an ad that we're selling this, uh, we would approve it because it follows within the guidelines of the page. It is a brick and mortar establishment, and they don't have to be a member to post on this group, by the way. And so the only thing is they need to abide by the rules. And Facebook does have very specific rules about what you can and cannot post. And
What, what
so,
what- what's the difference between your Facebook page and those that are there are other um online groups like that, di ba?
right, there's so many groups
Yes.
because it's I don't know the exact differences between a page and a group, but my understanding is a page is primarily to promote your organization or your product or your business,
Mm-hmm.
but a group is for sharing ideas.
Okay.
And so we decided to create this group. And if you go to the group, you'll see the guidelines. And number one is you have to be a brick and mortar. That was our primary restriction, so to speak. But since then, we've actually broadened it to those who have home-based
Yes.
businesses.
Yeah. I think that's what.
So
Did you see the if that has grown
yes,
far and wide in the past since 2020? That
yes,
there are more businesses now. Okay.
we started with 50 members, and now I think we're approaching 2,000.
2,000 people who may or may not have businesses
Yes,
online working
yes,
from home. Wow.
yes, or people who want to know more about
Yes.
businesses and what they can order from them. So
I'm one of
essentially,
those.
yeah, so it's essentially a way to allow people to see in an online platform what other businesses, whether they're brick and mortar or online, are making available. And I want to emphasize that not everything that's posted on the page is allowed, because if we know you're a fly by night, we have ways to check. If it's
How?
just if we look online, are you a legitimate business? Um, the brick and mortars are easy. The online ones not so easy, but we gave them a pass if they can show us that they are in Texas, because even though the group name is um, is Houston, Texas, we allow anybody within the state of Texas because we've decided it is a statewide resource, but only within the state of Texas. So if your business is housed, it's based outside of Texas, I'm sorry, we will not approve it your post because we want to promote Texas-based businesses first. There are
Okay.
other, like you said, there are other Facebook groups that do that. So you can promote your business there instead, because
Mm,
we've heard from because I'm one of the admins of this group, we've
yeah.
heard from many people that say they appreciate the fact that they don't have to wade through what could be bogus posts
Yes.
before they can get to a legitimate one. For example, a get rich quick scheme not going to
Oh,
get approved. Let's say Nancy Reyes Lumen posts, DM me. That is one of my triggers. DM. If you are on the level,
what's
do
DM?
direct message.
Ah.
Why can't you discuss what you're providing in an online forum?
Mm-hmm.
That is a big question mark in our minds. Why are
Okay.
you not willing to explain to people what you're doing. Why do they have to direct message you?
Uh-huh. All
And
right.
so, and so if they say, "Oh, DM me, I'll show you how to make $2,000 with a $500 investment."
Yeah.
Heck no, no, we do not want to see that, because that's usually we cannot uh, validate it. I'm trying to think of the good word. We cannot validate your post.
Yes.
Now, if you're selling, um, I'm trying to think. If you're selling a service, let's say you have an auto shop, we can easily confirm that you are a brick and mortar because you are an auto shop. Then we approve them. Whether or not you're a member of our chamber, we will approve your post.
What if it's from the house?
Now, that's the thing. If we can see that you have a Facebook page or a web page that actually shows an address and a phone number, we already accept that it is a legitimate business.
Okay.
Now, which leads us to what you've been talking about, the Texas Cottage food law. We've actually made posts reminding people that just because you can cook pancit and your lumpia and everything in your house doesn't mean that you're legally allowed to sell it.
Okay.
And our one of the biggest questions in our minds is whenever we see people posting food for sale,
Yeah.
we don't know if they have the proper food handler's license and anything. And
Mm-hmm.
so unless we can prove at, we don't really go dig deep. If we can prove that you are in your house and we give you the benefit of the doubt that you have a food handler certificate, we're not going to call you out. But the important thing to remember is Texas does have what's called the Texas Cottage food law that you have to follow if you sell food from your house. And
Yes.
so it's in a nutshell. We can go deeper into it. I'm not saying I'm an expert on it. I have to rely on web pages. I actually have web pages open on my computer right now. But the basic idea is if the food that you're selling, the temperature needs to be controlled. Again, we're talking about the state health officials or the city health officials. Here, Nancy, they have guidelines on what temperature hot food
Yes.
should be
Yeah.
kept and what cold food should be kept.
Mm-hmm.
If the food you are selling has protein,
Mm-hmm.
meaning it needs to be temperature controlled,
Okay.
do you have a food handler certificate for it? Because you are not covered by the Texas Cottage food law.
Okay. One other thing I learned was if you can be under the Texas food law as long as you're not $50,000 annually.
Exactly. It's 50. You have to sell no more than 50. I'm looking at my cheat sheet. Uh,
Okay.
you cannot
You
sell
know
more
why?
than,
No, Bobby, you know why? And
yes.
I want the audience to listen. It's because what's happening now in the new normal is everybody's trying to make extra money online, working from
Mhm,
home. So
mhm.
there's no rent to pay, and there's your kitchen and your time, but there will also have to be sanctions. And
Yes.
I think when you have we can study what's happening here in Houston or in Texas and apply it to the Philippines. So I hope DTI people already have an idea of this, but it just has to be more um how would I call it? More organized, di ba?
So,
The Philippines. That's why we're listening closely to you.
right, right. So, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and read because this is just what I found. This website I found is actually very easy to understand. I looked up the actual Texas law, and it's written in such, I don't know what to call it, legal language. I could not understand it. So I found two websites that actually explained it easier. So,
Okay.
number one, I guess what people want to know, what are the requirements for a cottage food operation?
Uh-huh.
You can sell only foods that are not time and temperature controlled for safety, which is what we talked about.
Yes.
We all know pansit malabon, madaling mapapanit yan.
Pancit Bihon, number one.
Ihon with cabbage.
Saka
So,
yung
self,
mga ginatan. Nako po.
yes, yes. So, but you have to sell directly to the consumer, meaning if you, let's say you're the seller, Nancy, and I want to buy it from you, I have to get it directly from you, not through a different through a middle store, a middle person.
Okay.
You need to prepare the foods in your home kitchen, not in a separate building or facility using appliances meant for residential use, meaning your home kitchen is fine.
Uh-huh.
And you cannot sell more than $50,000 per
Annually.
year.
That's fine.
Okay. And here's the most important thing: even though you fall under the cottage food law, you must have a current food handler's card
Yes.
and package the food so as to prevent contamination and label the products with the producer's information, allergen information, and specific language informing the consumer that the food was prepared in an uninspected kitchen, meaning the city health department did not inspect your kitchen.
Yeah. So, parang ang labo, di ba? Dapat, di ba, inspect. I read something na if you want to put up a legitimate home-based kitchen business, somebody will check out will vet, will do vetting on your kitchen kung may insect, baka mamaya may stray
They
dog.
don't. They don't. I'm reading it, Nancy. As long as you have that food handler's card, a
Yeah,
cottage food operation does not need to get a license from the state or local health department or to register with the state or local health department. The state and local health departments are directed to keep a record of any complaints. So you are not safe from complaints. So if somebody were to file a complaint against your food, I guess a food, it's not a restaurant. What do you call it when you sell from the house?
home
You're a
business.
caterer. I guess you're a caterer, right?
Yeah, yeah. Pero ang tanong ko, Bobby, what about insurance? Kung somebody gets food poison and sues you to death, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Paano 'yon? What's your defense?
Well, according to this, while you do not have to have liability insurance, they do recommend you get one because, especially in the United States, people can sue you so quickly.
How would
For
you
let's say,
apply that to the Philippines? Meron
uh,
din mga insurance na gano'n, ano?
see, I don't know. I'm not
I
familiar
think
with.
meron third person insurance, things like that. Or they should already start developing that kind of insurance.
Yeah, because I think we are a forgiving people. let's say,
Yeah.
let's say I order something for some guy, medyo nasira ang tiyan ko. Ay, okay na yan, sige lang,
No,
nasira.
wait. When you say we, are you saying Filipino customers or
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole Texan
yeah. Because no, Filipino customers, we're more forgiving.
Filipino customer? Okay, all right.
Kunwari medyo maantay yung nakuha mo, magrereklamo ka, pero we're not gonna sue them. I'm just
All right.
generalizing, but you still need to protect yourself. In the United States, even if they're Filipinos, they have every right to sue you if they get sick from your food.
Of
So
course.
that's why that food handler certificate is really important, and it is required.
Yeah.
And then look at this: the most important thing, if you do have a cottage food business at your house, the cottage food law has no effect on federal income tax law. So as long as you don't go beyond the 50,000 a month, if I understand this correctly, I think you're fine.
Okay, Filipinos in Manila, do not listen to that. Kasi,
No, don't.
well, that's another thing that
No, but see, we're talking about what applies here in Texas, and people who are listening need to understand that different states here in the United States have different laws, and this law that we're talking about only applies in Texas.
wow, Texas is very I think in the Philippines, mahirap din i-monitor kasi every little house will have a puto or a bibingka or
Not
a
even that,
turon.
Nancy. On the sidewalks, ang dami na nila doon nagtitinda doon. I
Oo,
don't think that's all regulated.
yeah. Well,
So
that's the new normal eh.
yeah,
So you cannot demonize that.
no,
Actually
no.
that's been happening na noon nung pandesal, lechong manok, magkakatabi lahat.
Mm-hmm,
Iba
mm-hmm.
nagagalit. Bakit? Porket si Bobby nakakatinda ng 100 lechong manok tapos si Nancy nagtayo. Naagawan, 50 na lang yung tinebenta ni Bobby, nakuha ni Nancy yung 50. Walang ganun eh. Di
Yeah,
ba?
there's actually a marketing term for that, which escapes me at the moment. where the pie is now, instead of just being held by one person, the pie now becomes distributed among two, three, or more people. It's still the same size of the pie, but nahati na silang lahat.
Oh,
There's
nahati na.
I forgot the term, but there's a term for that.
Yeah,
But
well, I was also reading about, yun na nga, you mentioned food handlers, actually even beverage handlers.
mhm.
Um, uh, there are some products that they said are good kasi it has to be acidified, fortified, and people in Manila, you listen na lang kasi these are the safe ones, yung hindi na talaga mapapanis. Kung
Right.
unless extreme na iniwan mo sa kotse mo ng mga 3 araw, may amag na or bumubula na, binebenta mo pa.
So
Pero basically those that are very rich in sugar or
mhm.
yung mga nuts like nuts, cereal, granola, popcorns. Americanized to pero baka may maka-apply.
Oh, bigyan ko na,
Jelly.
bigyan kita ng ano example.
Oh,
Yung gourmet tuyo is actually allowed.
really?
Yes,
They
gourmet tuyo.
live in Houston and of course, they're
Yeah,
talaga very,
yeah.
very much.
Well, let me read a few of the what are allowed
Oh, sige.
and give you an idea.
Okay.
Baked goods that do not require refrigeration, such as cakes, cookies, breads, and pastries. Again, yung mga hindi madaling masisira, hindi pwedeng sang rival dyan kasi matutunaw yon.
Hindi,
Candy.
pero Bobby, nakakatakot din yung mga mousse kasi
Oh
that's
yeah,
milk
yeah.
based.
But it does say that do not require refrigeration. Mousse requires
Ah,
refrigeration.
okay. All
And
right.
so candy, including chocolate and chocolate dipped pretzels, coated and uncoated nuts. And
Yes.
I don't know, we don't do a lot of this. Nut butters, fruit butters, canned jams and jellies, fruit pies. So you can see yung sinasabi mo, pag mataas ang sugar content kasi hindi talaga madaling masisira yon.
Mhm.
Dehydrated fruits and vegetables, including dried beans, popcorn and popcorn snacks. And you said cereal, including granola.
Oo.
Vinegar, hindi napapanis ang
Hindi.
vinegar.
Hindi.
Mustard, and here's the most important thing, mahilig tayo dito, roasted coffee or dry tea.
Yes, and I think that's one good business talaga that people can pursue in the Philippines. And
Right.
especially if they do the branding and the sourcing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it comes from Davao and the mountains of Davao. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really ang galing, galing.
No, my sister, ito, shameless plug. My sister has a company in Manila that, speaking of small businesses that survived during the pandemic,
Mhm.
before the pandemic, what my sister and her business partners used to do was, yung mga giveaway, mga corporate giveaway, or wedding gifts.
Mhm.
So they would package, for example, ang tawag dito, yung maliliit na coffee press with ground coffee, or they have a tea set with tea leaves, ganon. And then what they found out during the pandemic was, since people couldn't go to their Starbucks or ano pa yung mga coffee shops sa Pilipinas, Figaro is one of them. I like Figaro.
Oh, yeah.
My
Uh-huh.
sister actually found a supplier in the mountain province for coffee.
Okay.
So itong talagang farm to market.
Uh-huh.
So yung when my sister orders the coffee, let's say when people order coffee from my sister in bulk, that's how she started her coffee business. People were ordering it in bulk for whatever reason. She would then place the order with the farmers directly, the farmers co-op. The farmers actually plant, harvest, roast, and package the beans.
Uh-huh.
And then they would go, I think, overnight from the mountain province to Cubao,
Uh-huh.
and then my sister would pick it up and then repackage. Kunwari, si Nancy Reyes Lumen ordered 2 pounds of Benguet blend.
Uh-huh.
That yung malalaking bag, and then my sister would package it, weigh it, and put it in the bags for you. For your, let's say, ang requirement mo, you wanted to, no, 2 kilos. Kilos nga pala sa Pilipinas.
Oo.
But you wanted them in 250-gram bags.
Okay.
I-repack na nila yun for you. And then all you need to do is put your label on it.
Uh-huh.
And so coffee, going back to original topic, yeah, coffee is a good idea because it is allowed here. So meron
Tea.
tayong kaibigan, yeah, and tea. Meron tayong kaibigan that has started importing Philippine coffee, and they're based in Pearland.
Yeah, sino to? Sina
Pwede ba tayo mag-plug?
Oh, why not?
Oh, si Edison Concepcion, he's with his company is called Tropic Roast, and he
Okay.
gets his coffee from Sultan Kudarat,
All right.
southern Philippines.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm gonna show you. Someone brought home. See, Eleni brought this home.
yes, I got one too.
Yeah. I mean, and I tried it. It's very good.
Yeah,
Tapos, I'm so proud. Hey, this is from the Philippines. You know.
and then
So,
Nancy, if you remember, uh,
Arabica.
I think there was a company or a small business in the Philippines that won the top chocolate prize for
Yes.
making the best chocolate. So
Yes.
I don't see
From
chocolate here, but I
Davao.
don't see why you can't.
Of course. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to finish this off, pickled fruits and vegetables, achara for sure.
Yes.
Fermented vegetables, I guess that would cook it. And any other, and here's the big category, any other non-time and temperature controlled for safety. So like I said, yung mga gourmet tuyo, kasi hindi ba you bottle
Nakapote.
that. So anong
At
tawag
saka
doon? May
salted na
process.
yun eh.
Not only that, don't you, anong tawag doon? You can it. So talaga
Yes.
nakaseal yung
Yeah.
jar.
Yes.
And then I bought this from a small business in Dallas actually. Alam mo
Mm-hmm.
yung chopped up garlic na
Oo.
niluto na in oil?
Oo. Yeah.
They have them in different flavors. Merong spicy, merong regular, ganun. Hey, it's the easy way to mix it na nga, gano. You just heat
Yeah.
up the rice and put the garlic and all. That's allowed too. Kasi, again, it's not time and temperature controlled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I think, again, I'm generalizing. If you can put it on your counter and it's not going to go bad, I think that falls under this.
Like there's this very popular donuts. Diba? Donuts is a good business also.
Yeah, it's a baked good that does not require refrigeration.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Pero,
that's allowed.
pero Bobby, there are 1 trillion turon circulating in the Philippines, in Houston, in the whole America, and even all over the globe. Ano yung control doon? Wala. Kasi actually, hindi naman napapanis ang turon eh. It's
Hindi.
still an easy way to start business.
We don't even need to go to Toron, Nancy. Adobo.
Of,
Of course.
i-reserve ko yan for the last eh.
Oh,
Kasi
ganun ba? Okay. What,
ang
what, so
adobo,
it's just a teaser. So it's a teaser.
adobo, walang panis, all-purpose, pwedeng kainin ng malamig na may mainit ang kanin, pwedeng kainin ng mainit na malamig ang kanin, pwede dalahin sa punerarya, pwede dalahin sa airport, pwede dalahin sa motel, pwede
Yeah.
dalahin sa,
Aeroplano.
sa reunion, sa mga Bible study, di ba? I
Yep,
mean,
yep.
adobo is the forever thing.
Yeah, but I think what we could do is I can share the links for these websites with you because they provide a lot more detail. It's two of them.
Yeah.
I can share it. And do you have the capability to show it on screen?
EOO. I don't
That's
know.
why well, you can show it. You can show the links later on, maybe. But I'm sending you the
You
links.
can put it in the chat.
Yeah,
Kasi
put it. It's in the chat.
we don't have photos from you
Yeah,
to share.
it's in the chat. But
Okay.
we can share it.
Yeah.
We can share it later on
Uh-oh.
because that's what I use. And they're very detailed. Like I said, I've looked through many web pages that
Mm-hmm.
have to deal with the Texas Cottage food law, and these two were the easiest to understand.
I know, but so Texas is very lenient. Are there? I would guess that New York cannot be like that because
I
masyadong
I, I don't
praning ng
know.
mga New Yorkers, diba?
I've
I
never
mean,
lived in New York,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
but
okay, let's try now to make it this productive by trying to connect the cottage kitchen laws to the Philippines scene now. Okay,
mhm.
what's happening now is dumami rin ang nag-online, dumami. Actually, noon pa may nagtitinda na ng mga load, di ba? From their
Pasalo, yung mga
Diba,
pasalo.
mga
Yeah.
pasta load, yung mga ganon. Tapos, it went into food. And I'm not sure if it's already regulated, pero I read also before this the kitchen cottage kitchen tips. It's best that somebody will really inspect your kitchen and make sure, especially sa Manila, yung source of water. Diba? Minsan sa mga sidewalk, yung tubig, nakikita ko na, mabuti, mas gusto ko nang kumain nung nasa yung plato na nakabalot ng plastic rather than kakain ako sa plato na hindi ko na alam kung
Well,
nahugasan. Sorry mga kababayan, pero
pero
kailangan din talaga tayong
yeah, we need to be clean. Pero Nancy, buhay pa tayo. I used to buy the sagot gulaman from the yung mga carts sa sidewalk. Paano nila
Mhm.
hinuhugasan yung baso after you drink it? Binabanlawan lang sa isang timba sa likod and then
Oo.
ready na for the next
Yeah,
ano.
pero you can see ngayon na may mga improvements na gaya ng mga nagtitinda ng taho. Disposable na yung
I
kanilang
know, I see it.
and they have their own little um trash bin na pwede nila pagka mo, pwede mo ng hindi sila nagkakalat.
Right, right.
So, nag-i-improve na rin. Ano na lang siguro, taxes, licenses, insurance, those are the things that they can really consider right
Mhm.
now. And
And
also,
and and more of a uniformity siguro if I'm sure they'd have it. I don't think they would. I can't imagine them not having at least some regulation for people who do home-based businesses. Hindi kaya?
I'm sure there should be. I mean, DTI, hello, listen to us. Please listen to Bobby and try to look into the cottage. I'm sure meron.
Yeah,
Meron,
yeah,
pero
because I don't want to presume to dictate to another country what they should do because like I said, my expertise, if you want to call it that, is just what I've learned here dito lang sa Texas lang.
yeah.
So,
Well,
but
there
it would be nice to learn what's the Philippines nga.
Oo. Pero ano
So,
mga experiences mo from the Facebook that you have and your association with, I'm sure you have friends and you've heard of some cases or even those you don't know who have had experiences that you heard about that we can learn from, good
well,
or bad.
yeah, so going back to this Facebook group. So again, going back to the early months of the pandemic, no 2020. So
Oo.
once we started doing this, what we found out was there was a need for it. Like I said, we followed the lead of another similar Facebook group in California. We found out wala pa dito sa Houston. So that's why we decided to create this Facebook group.
Mhm.
We found out that there was a need for people to get to find information kasi nga hindi
Yeah.
nila alam kung yung favorite restaurant nila is open. Or if it is open, what are they providing? And so we essentially, like I said, we created a platform for people to find out what is available out there. And so what we heard from some of the businesses was nakatulong daw yon kasi people realized that they were open. Kasi nga, if you drive by, the restaurant would be closed. You don't
Yeah.
know. Pero yung pala, nagluluto sila sa loob that they can either deliver or you can pick up or curbside pala, not pick up. You were not, at the time, you were not allowed to go inside the restaurant, but it was curbside pickup. So
Mhm.
it helped them survive the pandemic because people realized that they can still order food.
So I'm going to ask you now the same question.
Mhm.
Is this the new normal?
I think it is because extrapolating from that restaurant example that I just told you,
Mhm.
dati, if you needed groceries, you go to the grocery store. But because
Uh-huh.
of the pandemic, you have a personal shopper
Yeah.
who delivers your groceries to you in your car, puts it in the back of your car. I don't
Mhm.
see that going away anytime soon because I know it's convenient for a lot of people
Mhm.
that they'd rather yung mga busy households ba that they really don't have the time to go into the grocery store, go through all the aisles and get their groceries. Mas convenient sa kanila na ordering online and
Yeah.
then drive up with their car and then the groceries get loaded. That is the new normal because I know I've talked to some friends of mine that said, "Oh, I don't know if I want to go back to going to the grocery store. I'd rather be at home with my family and then drive up. And actually, then you can even have it delivered to your house."
Uh-huh.
And again, part of the new normal, a lot of us are now more used to ordering stuff online. Kaya lumakas ang Amazon eh.
Yeah.
Everybody is going to Amazon.
Yeah.
And
So
so it is the new normal. Online shopping and online businesses are here to stay. But again, going back to what I said earlier about us creating this group, we also need to provide support for our brick and mortar businesses. Because
yeah.
they're the ones who have the rent. They're the ones who have the overhead.
Yep.
When you're at home in your online business, you really don't have overhead. You don't even have employees unless you're large enough that you have employees. But if it's just you cooking in your kitchen, kunwari, oh Nancy, I have a party at my house. Pwede mo makapagluto na isang tray ng pansit saka
Go.
isang daan na lumpiang Shanghai. For example, yung ganon, and then daanan ko na lang sa bahay mo. But then I know I can safely order from you because you have a food handler's permit.
Yeah. Okay. So,
So
so
I'd rather go with a person or a business that I know is following the law
okay.
because ayoko rin naman mangyari, let's say, wag naman sana. Let's say yung in-order ako na pagkain gave me napanis or whatever and I had to go to the hospital. Wag naman sana, pero if you know the proper food preparation and food handling, which you will learn from that food handler's training, hindi mangyayari yon. Well, again, using as an example, mga Filipino, like we were saying earlier, alam natin pasit malabon, madaling masisira yan. Yung ginata, basta anything with gata, madaling masisira yan. Yung mga puto na merong grated coconut, ang daling mapanis ng coconut na yun. We know
Yung
that.
coconut, oo.
Di ba?
Yeah.
Pero for people who are not familiar with that kind of food but order from you and don't know any better, na panis na pala yun.
Yeah.
Tayo alam natin, ay panis na yan, hindi natin kakainin yan.
Mala,
Paano yun? Tapos
biglang,
yun yung nakakit.
bigla kang mamamarites.
Oh, well, that's the other thing. It's funny you bring that up. I don't approve of social bullying, I guess you could call it that. Kung hindi ka masaya sa isang business, whether the quality of the product or the service, you need to bring it up with the owner or the manager instead of broadcasting it all over without contacting the business first.
Yeah.
Kasi in another context, that could be, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's libel. If
Libel.
it was a news story, it can be considered libel.
Yeah.
Or slander. Maybe it's slander would be closer. Pero my thought is, if you have a problem with a good or a service, you need to take it up with the business. Don't do it on social media. It's not fair to the business, considering what we're talking about. A lot of them are still barely surviving. And for a fact, we know that a lot of restaurants still don't have enough personnel.
Yeah.
So because a lot of people never went back to work for the restaurants. So they're making do with what they have. So we just need to be helpful with each other and I dare say more tolerant. So let me get off my soapbox now. You got me on my soapbox.
No. That's fine. I was really just concerned na the new normal in the Philippines should not be freewheeling. Kasi doon nagkakagulo eh. The more that it's regulated professionally, hindi ko naman sinasabing dapat HRA or HE graduate. Hindi. Pag sinabi kong professional, clean as you go, malinis yung makina mo, pagkagamit mo ng mixer, hindi mo iiwan ng ganyan, huhugasan mo pati yung all the parts, or pag may pinakuluan ka, hindi mo papasok yung kaldero sa freezer, diba? You will pack it nicely, and you will basta you'll observe everything. Now, my question is before we.
Pero Nancy, let me add to what you just said. I think what needs to be done then is it's instead of a regulation of small businesses, I think education would be best. Just educating people on proper handling of food and utensils used in food preparation. I think that will go a long way. Kasi if you go the regulation route, of course the larger restaurants would follow it, but the smaller ones may or may not. And then yun ang mahirap na i-regulate. But if you educate people, I think from from just the basics. I think that will reach a lot more, not just big businesses or big restaurants. Even yung mga baguhan lang na nagluluto sa bahay nila.
Oh,
Hey, when I came to the US, I did not know how to cook. But when you go to the US, you have to learn how to cook. I learned the hard way. Hindi mo pwedeng iwan dito yung chicken. When you cut chicken up on your cutting board, you have to wash the cutting board and the knife in warm water and soap. Kasi nga, you don't want to run the risk of salmonella or any cross contamination. You have to learn that. But how did I learn it? By reading. And that's what I mean by education. If
oh,
you teach people, then that's the best way.
yeah. Yeah. And that's what I like. Sana in Manila. But you know what, in Manila, those in the Philippines, the people who are now doing business online, they got a certain sense of pride
Hmm.
already, and they have to hold on to that. And
Hmm.
maybe after that will come their branding, and then
Hmm.
their quality assurance, and then who knows, lampas na pala sila ng $50,000 na ano. Example lang yun, ha. Nasa stage yun. Yung lampas na sila noon, and then they can be legitimate. But I doubt really, as you said, the new normal, if somebody succeeds with her business, let's say selling ensimada, she'll
Hmm.
forever just be online. I don't think they will take the risk of going brick and mortar, or renting again, or going to the commercial areas.
Right.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Pero as you said, the new normal is now the way we're doing it now.
Mhm. Kasi if you go, if that ensamada maker ends up having to rent, that that's your overhead. Not only the rent, and you have your electricity, you have all of that. Pero kung nasa bahay ka lang, it makes your margins better for you. So
Mm.
maski even if you don't sell a large volume of it, at least kikita ka maski paano.
Okay. So, if ever there would be a cottage kitchen law or guideline that will be adapted to the Philippines, that group or DTI can also accompany it with guidelines on
Mhm.
safety, serve
Mhm.
safe,
Mhm.
diba? Um, Sanitation and all that.
Mhm.
And then maybe a license that they can get online. Kasi like me, I got my food handler's license online.
Well, Dito, well, keep in mind, Texas Cottage Food Law does not require you to have a license. It just requires you to have a food handler to complete food handler training.
Then how come I heard, or I was told before, when I wanted to do chicken barbecue, that I have to go to a
Oh, remember,
rendering
that's
karne.
protein. Yes.
Pag
Iba na yun.
protein, hindi pala pwede.
Iba. It's a different kind of training, I believe.
Adobo is forever, hindi
I know,
napapano.
but that's still covered by that ruling na they will still look at it as it needs to be, even though we know hindi mapapanis, it still falls under that category of ano ba hinahanap ko na
Hindi
it
process.
is time and temperature controlled for
Yeah,
safety
okay.
because of the local health requirements. It will still be required for time and temperature control.
Okay. So, what about these people who are selling lechong kawali or yung mga binilog na ano? They're
All I
getting
can say is I hope they have that food handler certificate. Yun talagang
okay.
whatever it's called na talagang which allows
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
You're
food
probably more familiar with it because you do
yeah,
this, so
understand.
it's
Yeah,
different, di ba?
yeah, it's displayed. But so yon, karne yon,
Mm-hmm.
and
Diba?
sa Manila, yon,
And
I'm sure even
that,
hotel Shanghai is karne.
right. So the best rule of thumb is if there's meat, like I said, if there's protein,
Uh-huh.
hindi ka na covered ng Texas Cottage Food Law.
Iba na.
Iba na
Oh,
yun.
so
Ibang ruling na
yeah.
yun. Yes.
Okay, so that's where I learned that you have to either, if you don't have a commissary, you either have to rent space in a commissary to produce your barbecue, your meat
Mhm, mhm.
dishes, na
Right.
ganon.
Right.
So, we have to make that distinction. But in Manila, in the Philippines, hindi pa yata ganon. But
Right.
here, talagang ano. But in your Facebook, people are selling meat. But that's okay with you. Kasi,
Well, we like I said, we give them the benefit of the doubt that
uh,
when we check that they are in a valid address, and they
Okay.
actually have a phone number and an email address so people can contact them. We, like I said, we give them the benefit of the doubt. We're not going to call them and say, "Hey, are you legit? Do you have this? Do you have that?" No. But
Okay.
then we have a disclaimer on the Facebook group
Uh-huh.
that excuse me, we are not responsible for anything. We're just providing you a platform.
Okay. So that's also like an insurance na
Yes.
safety net that everybody in the United States of America will do or for
You know,
protect.
we live on those,
Yeah,
disclaimer.
yeah. Okay. Well,
But but
anyway,
but
that's
like I said, the reason we say that, Nancy, is because we do not really dig deep to make sure they are legit. Like I said, we give them the benefit of the doubt.
okay. All right. So that's good for the businesses here, and I hope that the Filipinos who are listening can already know how to apply the same things that we have here in Houston. But too much business already, and let's end with a very positive. Again, another positive uh, story from
Affirmation.
you. Yeah, because I enjoy hearing always how you consider yourself having a second life. So maybe you can end with that, and then give us leave inspiring thoughts to the Gen Xers who are now the moving force of business, of globalization, and what's happening in the world now. They are the ones now holding the planet.
Gen Xers ba? I thought it was the millennials now.
Ay, hindi ba sila na rin yun? Hindi pa
Hindi,
ba?
hindi iba yun. They're different ages.
Well, yeah, millennials now are they're quite old now, di ba? How old
Mga
are they
20s na.
now?
I think I
Well,
don't keep
this is
track of the distinctions.
yeah, pero the millennials before are now may mga 40 na or something.
No, I think well, we may get some millennials mad if we don't use the right terminology, but
Okay, sorry. I'm senior. Okay.
I'm next to you.
Oh, sige, Bobby. We'll
If,
end with a
if you,
very nice story from you.
I'm sure there are people watching who are doing the math when I was telling when I graduated and how old I was when I came to the U.S. I might as well tell you I'll be 60 next month. So I've
Ay,
spent
ikaw nag-allowance.
yeah, I spent more than half my life here in Houston now, 38 years this year. So and it's been a very rewarding. And what before I tell you my story, it's just what I can tell. What I tell people is, yeah, we all have these plans that we have in our lives. Like I said, I plan to be an optometrist, but
Mm-hmm.
you just have to go with what I learned. You go with the flow. Whatever life throws at you, just go ahead and accept it and keep
Yep.
going. So that's how I ended up doing what I do, and I find out that I actually like it. And
And
so,
20 years already, no? More 20 more and 20 and more years already that
yeah,
you've
I've been working at the same hospital for 28 years.
yeah.
And but actually no, but see, in that hospital, I started off being a section administrator. Then I went into the IT department, and I
Mhm.
never left IT. And so I wanted to be a hospital administrator, believe it or not. But like I said, plans changed, and so you just have to be adaptable. Well, I think what you want me to tell the story of is how I ended up. So in next January, I call myself. I'll be 10 years old. And why
Okay.
do I say I'm 10 years old? Because January 13 of 2013, what 1313? I was running the
Yeah,
half
no?
marathon. I know. I mean, just now realized. I was running the half marathon, actually primarily jogging it kasi hindi ako nag-train.
Mm.
And I knew I was approaching the finish line. Maybe like 200 feet, I would be at the finish line. But then nag-black out na ako. I lost consciousness, but the cameras caught me. I was still running towards the finish line, and I collapsed at the finish line. And 5 hours later, I woke up in the ICU of the nearest hospital in downtown Houston. Turns out I had cardiac arrest, meaning my heart stopped because of low electrolytes at the finish line. And I was fortunate that it happened at the finish line because paramedics were there who quickly went to my aid and took me to the ER, and where they put me on full life support for 5 hours. And I finally was able to start breathing and everything else on my own. But the doctors found out 3 days later that I actually had three blocked arteries, coronary arteries. And so they said I needed to have triple bypass surgery. Can you imagine? I was 50 years old in relatively good health, but now here I am facing bypass surgery. I asked the doctor, but I've been eating right the last few years. I've been exercising because not only was I jogging, I was also riding my road bike. The
Mhm.
doctor told me, and this is what what surprised me was he said your habit in your early age actually affects you in your old age. Meaning, the blockage that was in my artery started accumulating when I was younger. Unfortunately for us, ang Filipino diet natin high in fat. Nandiyo nga, you said lechon kawali, lechon,
Oo.
anything fried, maalat, lahat na yun. So all that arterial plaque builds up over the years. And so once it builds up, hindi pala natatanggal.
Mhm.
That's what the doctor told me. And so what I learned was if it wasn't for timely medical intervention, you and I would not be talking today. And
Mhm.
so I'm very fortunate to know that there are doctors and nurses out there. I truly believe in what they do, and that's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
And it took me at least 6 months to fully heal, and it took me about a year to get my strength back.
Mhm.
But I'm still very thankful that I came back. Kasi if it had gone the other way, let's say I had the cardiac arrest anywhere else along the marathon route, hindi na ako maabutan ng mga EMT. Kasi
Yeah.
apparently, once your heart stops, you have a 2-minute window that they have to restart that heart. Kundi, makaka-brain damage ka na, and all those body functions would start shutting down.
So they got you in the within the 2 minute window.
Actually, I went beyond 2 minutes. They were there. That's why I ended up being on life support because they were not able to revive me.
Oh.
But once the ER, even though I wasn't breathing on my own, they found that I had a very weak heartbeat. So they hooked me up to full life support.
Okay,
And
one question.
Mhm.
So, no matter how healthy your lifestyle was, basta't naubusan ka pala ng electrolytes, you can easily have a cardiac
Yeah,
arrest.
yeah. The way it was explained to me was the signal. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not biologist, but
You're
the
an
way it was explained to
optometrist.
me, yeah, but I wasn't listening maybe. But anyway, what causes your heart to beat is a chemical reaction, and that's your electrolytes. And
Okay.
so, simplistically speaking, when I wasn't replenishing my electrolytes during the run, nawalan na ng chemical signal yung heart ko to beat, and that's when it stopped. And again, right, like you and I were talking, that that's the difference between cardiac arrest and a heart attack. Heart attack means your heart did not get enough blood supply because of blockage to the heart.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that situation too, but I was still getting blood supply to the heart, even though mahina lang, my heart was not starving for blood. It just stopped beating, so my heart muscle was still left intact. Yun ang maswerte ako doon. Kasi if it was a heart attack, and the doctors did tell me if so parang pinlano eh. If I had not collapsed at that finish line, I would have had a heart attack eventually,
Uh,
and
uh,
then I would not be in the same condition I am now.
yeah, yeah. Well,
So
as you said, some things that you plan don't happen, and maybe the window that's open is even for the better. But
yep, yep,
yeah, 1313. No, well,
I
you
know.
you overcame that,
So sa
and
January I'll be 10 years old.
yeah. Well, thank you very much, Bobby. We've extended because it was really very interesting,
Oh, I know. Oh,
and
I just saw it.
and well, it's a good ending to your story. That as
Mhm.
you said, life. You said you were counting your new life, and for everybody else who also learned about the new normal. Yes, we are in the new normal. Sabi ni Bobby Reyes, and he is right. We just have to find new ways of improving the business or developing new business. And he read to you some of the list of the products that are possible to start if you're just starting your business. So to the millennials, to the Gen Xers, to the seniors, to those who are about to be married and thinking already of how to support your family. I hope that you watch the replay if you missed this one and listen to Bobby's tips. And this discussion was very, very interesting. Look into the cottage kitchen, um,
Yeah, the actual term, so they can easily find it, is Texas Cottage Food Law,
Texas
and
cottage food.
then it covers all of that now.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Bobby, and thank you, viewers, for watching. I hope you were enriched with another awesome interview of an awesome person. And this is Nancy Reyes Lumen doing this for Awesome Live in behalf and with Anton Diaz, multi awarded um, founder, owner of our awesome planet. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know how to end this, so we will still be.
We can keep going.
Wala eh. Ano eh. Uh, let's just leave the studio. But thank you very much, Bobby. For I
Well,
know it's late and you have work tomorrow, so goodbye
yes.
and go to sleep now. Regards
Thank
to
you, Nancy.
God.
Thank you to all our viewers for staying with us.
Just watch the replay. Bye
And we
bye.
didn't get to talk about adobo, Nancy.
It's okay. It's okay. I will still remain the adobo queen no matter what.
Yep, yep. No,
One of these days.
maybe
We'll have you again.
no. They can watch my show.
Oh, sige, sige. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
we had you, I know. I was going to say this is interesting because I'm on the other side now.
Yeah,
When you were on our show, we were asking you the questions, and now
yeah.
this is the opposite way. I'm on the other side. So good night.